I never thought I'd be square off with my own father over my place, but that's exactly where I'm at. To give you some background, last year, at 32, I finally bought my first house. It wasn't a mansion or anything fancy, just a cozy little 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood, but it was mine, you know? I busted my butt for years, saving every last dime, while my older sister, Emily, who's 35, got everything handed to her on a silver platter. Our folks always played favorites with her, but I never figured it'd come down to something like this a few weeks ago. My dad rings me up and asks if he can swing by. I didn't read too much into it until he shows up with Emily tagging along, and they both had this weird, smug look on their faces. So we're sitting in my living room shooting the breeze for a few minutes when my dad drops a real bomb. He says, "So Emily's been having a rough patch lately, and we were thinking you should just give her your house." I almost choked, I swear. I mean, I laughed out loud. What the heck are you talking about? Emily's just sitting there with her arms crossed, looking all bored, like this whole thing was already a done deal. My dad goes on, "She needs it way more than you do. You don't have a family, no kids. This place is too big for just one dude. She's in a tough spot right now, and it'd be the decent thing to do." Now, let me be clear, Emily ain't struggling. She's just flat out irresponsible. Our parents gave her a house 5 years back, a sweet 3-bedroom in a way nicer area than mine. But what does she do with it? Sells it within a year, blows all the money on crazy business ideas, you know, pyramid schemes, and just wasting it, and has been leeching off our parents ever since. And now they expect me to clean up her mess? No way. Absolutely not. My dad's face turns beet red. Emily just rolls her eyes. Ugh, I knew you'd be selfish about this. Selfish? I bought this place with my own sweat and blood. I didn't get a freebie and throw it away. My dad tells me to watch my tone, says she's my sister and I have a responsibility to help her. I couldn't believe my ears. It's their responsibility for enabling her. And now that they're running out of ways to bail her out, they want me to give up everything I've worked for? That's when my dad plays his trump card. He says, "If you don't do this, don't expect to see a penny from me when I'm gone. I'll cut you out of the will." Oh no, he didn't. Well, at this point, I was done playing nice. I stood up, walked to my office, and grabbed a neatly organized folder from my filing cabinet. I came back and dropped the paperwork on the table in front of them. "Go ahead," I said. "Cut me out. Because guess what? Emily's already taken her inheritance." My dad blinked like he didn't understand. Emily went white as a ghost. I continued, "That house you gave her? The one she sold for a pile of cash? That was worth more than everything left in your estate. She's already gotten her share. Me, on the other hand, I've gotten nothing from you my whole life. So, go ahead. Write me out. But don't come calling when you need help because I won't be there." Silence. You could hear a pin drop. Emily's jaw was hanging open. Emily's jaw just dropped open. My dad's face, it went from red like a tomato to completely ghost white. And then he just lost it. "How dare you throw that in our faces?" he yelled. "After everything we've done for you?" I just let out a sarcastic laugh. "Everything you've done for me? That's a joke." "Really? Everything you've done? Because last time I checked, the only thing you've ever done is bend over backwards for Emily while expecting me to just suck it up." Emily, finally snapping out of her daze, slams her hands down on the table and practically screams, "That house was a gift. You can't put a price on family support." That's when I told her, "Sure, but apparently you can put a price on mine. And it's exactly one house." My dad points a finger at me, his voice low but shaking with anger. "You ungrateful little punk. You'd rather see your own sister homeless than help her out? Now, let's get one thing straight here. Emily wasn't homeless. She'd been crashing in our parents' guest house for free ever since she blew through all the cash from selling her house. No rent, no bills, zero responsibilities. Meanwhile, I've been working my tail off for everything I had. And now they wanted to take it all away from me because Emily didn't feel like growing up? I just shook my head. You know what? This conversation's over. I'm not giving her my house. And if you're gonna cut me out of your will over this, go right ahead. 'Cause I don't need anything from you. I stood up, walked over to the front door, and threw it open. Now get out of my house. My dad's eyes went wide like he couldn't believe I was actually kicking them out. You can't be serious. Dead serious, I said. This is my house and I'm done with both of you. Emily huffed, grabbed her designer handbag, probably bought with my dad's money, knowing her, and stormed out first. My dad hesitated for a second like he was expecting me to change my mind. But when he saw I wasn't budging, he finally muttered something about me being a disappointment and followed Emily out the door. I slammed the door shut behind them and locked it. I wish I could say that was the end of it, that they saw reason and left me alone. But no, the real fight was just starting. Because a few days later, I found out my dad wasn't just cutting me out of the will, he was trying to steal my house. A few days went by, and I thought that was the last of it. That I'd finally shut the door, both literally and figuratively, on my father and Emily's sense of entitlement. Boy, was I wrong. It all started with a phone call from my realtor. Hey, she says, I just got a weird question about your house. Someone claiming to be your father asked if the property title was in your name or still under family ownership. My stomach dropped. Family ownership? What the heck was he talking about? I reassured my realtor that the house was 100% mine and hung up. But something felt off. Why would my dad, who has nothing to do with my finances, be poking around like that? Then that very night, I get a notification from my security cameras. Motion detected. Front door. My stomach just sank. I pulled up the footage on my phone, and there they were. Emily and my dad. Standing right there on my front porch. With a locksmith. Immediately, I flipped on the microphone on my security camera and said, "Can I help you?" The locksmith practically jumped out of his skin when he heard my voice coming from the camera, looking all confused. My dad, though, he didn't even flinch. "We're just checking something, son. Don't make this difficult." Emily was smirking, arms crossed like she'd already won. "Checking what, exactly?" I asked. The locksmith hesitated, then said, They told me they were the owners. Said they lost their keys and needed the locks changed." Oh, hell no. I grabbed my car keys and burned rubber all the way home. I was seeing red. If I hadn't gotten that notification, I don't even want to think about what I would have come back to. Would they have moved in? Changed the locks? Thrown my stuff out on the curb? When I pulled up, the locksmith was still standing there, looking pretty uncomfortable, realizing he'd been bamboozled. I looked at him and said, "They don't live here. And they sure as heck don't own this house." The locksmith looked at me, then at my dad, then back at me again. He asked me, "Sir, do you have proof of ownership?" I whipped out my phone and pulled up my property deed. This is my name on the title. Not his. Not hers. Mine. The locksmith immediately took a step back and mumbled an apology. My dad, though, he wasn't backing down. He said, "You have no right to treat me like this. I raised you. I provided for you. And this is how you repay me." I just chuckled. "By stopping you from committing literal fraud?" "Yeah, I guess so." Emily groaned, getting impatient. "Dad, let's just call the cops. He can't just kick us out of our own house." I laughed. I mean, full on bent over, gasping for air laughter. "Our own house? You actually believe that?" She just shrugged. Dad said it's still technically the family's. And there it was. Their grand plan revealed. This man, my own father, who spent my whole life playing favorites with Emily, giving her everything while I got nothing, actually thought he could just magically make my house family property by wanting it to be so. At this point, I was done being polite. I said, "All right, let's call the cops." My dad and Emily froze. I just laughed. "Oh, what's wrong? I thought you wanted to call them? You think they're going to agree with you? That they'll just kick me out of my own home?" My dad's eyes darted over to his car like he was thinking about making a run for it. "But Emily?" She doubled down. "You can't prove this house wasn't meant for me. Dad said he always planned for me to have it." "Oh, that was cute." I pulled out my phone, tapped a few times, and brought up the emails from my bank. "Oh, really?" Because according to my mortgage records, I took out a loan. And according to my closing documents, I signed the deed. And according to this wire transfer, I made the down payment. "Not you. Not Dad. Me." Emily's mouth snapped shut. I kept going, "So please call the cops. I'd love to hear you try to explain how you're entitled to a house you have absolutely no legal connection to." My dad grabbed Emily's arm. "Let's go." Emily hesitated, but my dad just yelled, "Now." They stormed off, Emily looking like she wanted to punch something, and my dad muttering something under his breath that I couldn't quite make out. I just stood there, arms crossed, watching them drive away. As their car disappeared down the street, I took a deep breath, trying to calm the fire that was burning inside me. Then I turned to the locksmith. He was already packing his tools back into his truck, clearly trying to get out of there as fast as possible. "Not so fast. We need to talk." He flinched a little but tried to play it cool. "Look, man, I didn't know." "You didn't know? That's your excuse." He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "They told me it was a family home and they'd lost their keys. It happens all the time. People get locked out." I cut him off. "And you didn't think to check? No ID? No proof of ownership? Just some random guy saying, 'Yeah, I totally own this place,' and you're ready to start drilling." He had the nerve to look annoyed. "Look, I don't need this. I didn't even start working yet." "Oh, hell no. You showed up at my house. You pulled out your tools. You were this close to breaking in. He held up his hands. I get it, okay? I should have asked for ID first. I took a step closer. Damn right you should have. If I hadn't caught you, you would have changed my locks for two people who were about to illegally move into my house. He sighed really loudly like he was the one being put out. Fine. I'll be more careful next time. Are we done? I narrowed my eyes at him. Not even close. Give me your business card. That got his attention. Why? Because I want the name of the company that almost helped my dad commit fraud. His jaw tightened. Come on, man. I didn't know. I was just doing my job. And your job requires verifying ownership before drilling into someone's door, right? He went silent. I held out my hand. The card. Now. He let out a frustrated breath, yanked a card out of his pocket, and slapped it into my palm. Thanks. Oh, and by the way, if I ever catch you trying to break into my house again, I won't just be having a conversation. I'll be calling the cops. He muttered something under his breath, jumped into his truck, and sped out of my driveway. I looked down at the card. Time to make some phone calls. I walked back inside, still clutching the locksmith's business card in my hand. My heart was pounding, not from fear, but from pure, unfiltered rage. My dad and Emily had actually tried to break into my house. Not just manipulate me, not just guilt-trip me, but break in. I needed to make some calls. First, I dialed the number for the locksmith company. A woman answered, sounding all cheerful. Thanks for calling, locksmith company name, how can I help you? Yeah, I need to file a complaint. One of your guys just showed up at my house and was about 5 seconds away from drilling my lock because 2 random people told him to. No verification, no proof of ownership, nothing. He was about to help them illegally break into my home. There was silence for a moment. Then, in a much more serious tone, she said that definitely shouldn't have happened. Do you have the technicians? Name? I read off the name on the card to her. We take this very seriously. I'll escalate this to management immediately. Good. Because if I ever see one of your locksmiths pulling something like this again, I won't be calling customer service. I'll be calling the police and my lawyer. She stammered out another apology, but I'd already hung up on her. Next, I needed to make a legal move. I called my lawyer. Yeah, I have one. Family drama like this teaches you to be prepared. After explaining everything that had just happened, he didn't sound surprised at all. Your father and sister tried to commit fraud. You need to file a police report. Even if you don't want them arrested, having a record of this will protect you if they try something like this again. He was right. They weren't going to stop until I made them stop. So, I grabbed my keys and drove straight to the police station. I walked inside, still clutching that locksmith's business card like it was evidence in a major crime. My mind was racing. I didn't want to get the cops involved in a family squabble, but my dad and Emily had crossed a line that couldn't be ignored. Walking up to the front desk, I took a deep breath. I need to file a report. My father and sister just tried to break into my house. The officer behind the desk raised an eyebrow. Do you have proof? I laid it all out for him, the locksmith's involvement, my dad and Emily's sense of entitlement, how they had almost gotten inside my house. I even showed him the security footage from my phone, which clearly showed my dad standing right there while the locksmith was getting ready to drill. The officer nodded slowly. Yeah, that's definitely an attempted unlawful entry. You're the legal owner of the house, right? I pulled out my paperwork. My name's the only one on the deed. He studied it for a minute, then looked back at me. We can file this as an attempted unlawful entry. Since they didn't actually break in, it's not full-blown trespassing. But if they try this again, they're looking at some serious charges. That was exactly what I needed, a paper trail. After signing all the necessary forms, I walked out of the station feeling a little lighter, but I knew this wasn't the end. Sure enough, my phone buzzed the second I got back in my car. It was my dad. I let it go straight to voicemail. Seconds later, Emily's name popped up on the screen. I ignored her too. A minute later, a text message came through from her. You called the police on Dad? What is wrong with you? I stared at my screen, disbelief slowly turning into amusement. Oh, this was going to be fun. I typed back, he tried to break into my house. Actions have consequences. Her response came instantly. Oh my God, you're so dramatic. You know Dad just wanted what was best for the family. I was done playing nice. Oh, Dad wanted what was best for you. He thought he could steal my house and you let him. Guess what? Now there's a police report. Try this again and I'll press charges. A few dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, she sent, you'll regret this. I just laughed. Oh, Emily, you have no idea. I started my car and headed home. It was time to gear up for the next round because this brawl was far from over. As I turned into my driveway, I could still feel the rush from the police station buzzing through me. Getting out of my car, I felt the weight of everything that had happened hit me all at once. The ball was in my court now. I'd started this whole thing and there was no turning back now. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from my dad. I didn't even think twice before opening it. He texted, "I don't know what you're trying to pull here, but I'm not going to let you ruin your life over a misunderstanding. You'll regret this." I just stared at the screen, feeling that familiar mix of anger and disbelief. How could he still act like I was the one who'd done something wrong? He had absolutely no shame. I quickly tapped out a response. "It's not a misunderstanding, Dad. You tried to steal my house. I'm not going to let you get away with it." A few minutes went by and then my phone buzzed again. It was my dad again. He texted, "You've crossed a line. You're not going to get away with this. Don't expect anything from me ever again." And that's when it really hit me. The real threat wasn't just the house or the police report. It was the will, something I hadn't really thought about until now. My dad had always talked about how everything was supposed to go to Emily. And if I was being honest with myself, I'd always suspected he might cut me out of it eventually. But now it felt like a complete certainty. I couldn't let him have the last word. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. "Hey, it's me again. Can we talk about my father's will?" My lawyer picked up right away. "Sure. What's on your mind? Is there a way to make sure that my share of the inheritance is protected? I'm worried about my dad making changes behind my back, especially with all the threats he's been making." There was a brief pause on the line. "We can definitely look into that. You have a right to your inheritance. And if he's been making threats or pressuring you, it's possible to challenge any changes he makes to the will. But we'll need to take action fast, especially if he's already started manipulating Emily." I hung up the phone, feeling a surge of determination. I wasn't going to let them win this thing. I was done being the victim in their twisted family game. I walked back into my house and I couldn't help but notice how much my surroundings had started to feel like my own personal fortress. I had built this place for myself and no one was going to take it away from me. Then, as I turned to lock the front door behind me, I heard the distinct sound of a car engine pulling up to the curb. I peeked through the window and sure enough, it was my dad's car. He was here. And I knew this whole mess was about to get a whole lot messier. I stood there, staring out the window at my dad's car as it crept down the street. The engine finally cut off and I could already picture him in my head, the same smug look he always wore when he thought he had all the cards. Not this time. I took a deep breath and walked to the door, opening it just as my dad stepped onto the porch. His face was a mask of anger and resentment. He didn't even bother to knock, just barreled ahead. Barged right in like he owned the place. "Is this how you're going to play it?" he spat, his voice dripping with poison. "You're going to throw your life away over this?" I didn't even blink. "No, Dad. I'm just making sure you can't mess with mine anymore." His eyes narrowed into slits. "What the heck are you talking about?" I took a step closer, closing the gap between us. "You've already tried to steal my house. Tried to break in with Emily's help. But that's not all, is it? I called the cops and filed a report. I've got proof. You can't keep getting away with this stuff and you're sure as heck not getting your hands on this house." His face turned a sickly shade of pale. "You're just being dramatic. I'm your father. I'm entitled to some help from my kids." I laughed. "You lost that right the second you tried to screw me over. And don't think I haven't figured out your game," I said, leaning in close, my voice low and dangerous. "You're planning to change your will, right? Cut me out and leave everything to Emily. But guess what?" He blinked, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and confusion. "I've already had a lawyer look into it. You don't get to play that game anymore." I gave him a cold, satisfied smile. "If you try to make any changes to your will now, I'll contest it. I've got the paperwork and I'll make damn sure the court knows exactly what you tried to pull." His jaw tightened. "You think you can just stop me? You're nothing without me." I shook my head slowly. "No, Dad. I'm something without you. I've built my own life and I don't need you or your messed up control to survive." He stood there fuming, but I could see the panic in his eyes now. The realization was finally hitting him that I wasn't the gullible kid he could push around anymore. "And if you think I'm going to let you walk away from this without facing the consequences, you're wrong," I continued. "I'm not going to call the cops again, but don't think for a second that I won't take further legal action if you push me. You've tried to steal from me, emotionally manipulate me, and now you're going to have to deal with the fallout." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. "I hope you enjoy whatever's left of your life, because it's not going to be a happy one. You've burned too many bridges to come back from this." My dad stood there for a long moment, his eyes shifting between anger and pure fear. Finally, he muttered something under his breath that I couldn't quite make out and turned to leave. But before he walked out the door, he shot one last glare at me. "You're going to regret this." I simply smiled back at him. "I already feel better." The door slammed shut behind him, and as I locked it, I finally let out a long, slow breath. It was over. The best part was the freedom of knowing that I was no longer under his thumb. He had tried to ruin my life, and now I had made sure he never got the chance to do it again. And that's how I finally took control, how I made sure that, for the first time in my life, my father wouldn't get away with his entitled, manipulative behavior. The house was mine, the will was secure, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was truly free. So, what do you all think? Did I go overboard with the payback, or was it just a much-needed wake-up call for my dad and Emily? Would you have handled things any differently? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think about this whole situation.